Hi everyone, this is Claire. I'm going to be walking you through my SAMR/ISTE lesson plan today. And as you can see, we are going to be looking at a unit designed for a poetry and sound curriculum. So I'm imagining this to be for the 7th and 8th grade level when we're talking about poetry, but particularly with sound. And so, because sound is one of those subsets of the poetry unit that I might design, I'm hoping to have this project last for over the course of a week while getting to other curriculum as well, giving students work time. Hopefully, if the school I'm in has a MacBook lab or if there's traveling iPads, to be able to have them work on this during class time as well. So some of the essential questions or objectives I have for this lesson plan are, in this unit, students will be able to identify, compare, and create the different types of sound in poetry by, and that's kind of the setup for what we have here, my learner outcomes. And essentially back here, I would create a list of the different types of sound in poetry that the students would work off of. Probably it could be anywhere from 20 to 50 different sound definitions, and they don't need to memorize those or be quizzed on them. The assessment for this lesson would be in their final project, not through a test or quiz. So in order to prove their knowledge and be able to use these types of sound found in poetry, they would first choose a song that they identify with for its sound qualities. This might be a favorite song or a song that they really like the musical aspects, the instrumentals for. Then they're going to choose a poem that they identify with for their sound qualities as well. So we will have already gone through a bit of poetry at this point and be able to understand, is there an alliteration here, or is repetition, or the way that this poet uses onomatopoeia is really cool. So however they want to like that or choose their poem. And then using GarageBand, they're going to record themselves saying the lines of the poem at the beginning, middle, end, or throughout the song that they've chosen, so they can edit this to create sort of a mashup of two genres of sound production. So this is going to be using 5 of those types of sounds that I was talking about having in a worksheet format to create this mashed sound. So then they will upload that audio file to either iTunes or SoundCloud to create their final product. And then after that, we're going to be sharing them either in small groups or in a large class, depending on the size of the class, and then write a 1 to 2 page reflection about the process that they chose to get to their mashup. So here are some of the ISTE standards that I was looking at for students. I won't read them all. I'm sure we've all been pretty familiar with them at this point in the assignment process. So there they are laid out for you there in slides 5 and 6. And I've also linked my presentation if you want to go back and read them. So this is my lesson or unit outline. It isn't as detailed as I would hope to do it, but hopefully it gives us an example of what I would be doing when introducing the unit. So we'd first watch Beyonce's Sorry, which I don't know if it will play for me. Yeah, it will. So essentially, if it were to play right now and we're in front of the class, and it'll buffer awkwardly as videos tend to do. Okay.
Here lies the body of the love of my life, whose heart I broke without a gun to my head.
Okay, so for most of you who've seen the video, Beyonce goes through with some poetry there and uses spoken word and the sound in creation with her images to make this back and forth of song and spoken word. So using that as kind of an inspiration, I might also use other music videos that artists have drawn from. I have my own personal example that I'd also show. So here that is. I can play a little bit. Did you think I was a city, big enough for a weekend getaway? I am the town surrounding it, the one you've never heard of, but always pass through. Okay, so that's that piece, and you can watch the full or listen to, excuse me, the full example that I used. If you want, it's also linked on my blog. I used poetry from Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur and music by the Staves, which is my favorite band. The song I try to create this kind of overlap of their singing. They have a lot of back and forth between instrumental and their singing, so I was able to incorporate my own words throughout. Some students might choose to do it more at the beginning or the end, and they can talk about those decisions that they made in the creative process, either in their reflection or when in their small groups. So that's essentially the project. I think it's a really fun, engaging way to use media in a way that's not too intimidating for students. It, I think, is a really interesting way to talk about sound that we don't oftentimes do, and I think that it makes poetry a bit more accessible for students who might be more inclined to listen to rap or hip hop, but not read a, Dickinson poem or whatever. And not everyone has to like that type of poetry. So I think this is a cool way to introduce and integrate tech into that accessibility. So moving on to the SAMR reflection here. I basically said that the technology integration in my proposed lesson plan on poetry and sound is at the redefinition level of the SAMR tier because it transforms a lesson from having students just look at poetry on the page or read aloud into something more. This lesson plan highlights the concept of sound found in poetry and non-prose based text. So it gives these students the opportunity to connect to poetry in an engaging way by incorporating their own favorite sounds through that music. And then also asking them to consider the differences and similarities between sound, the types of sound we find in poetry versus everyday speech versus music, and to really examine that. And they'll have to explain and justify why they made those decisions. So, in conclusion, I would say this lesson plan is at the redefinition level. I don't think that without technology, this type of assignment could have been created. It really requires the audio files from music that they like. It requires the technology of a GarageBand or Audacity to mix and move and play with the sound in this interesting way. With just our bodies and with just our human selves, I don't think we have the power to create this new form of art. So students create and share their audio files with their classmates across music and poetry genres and cultural boundaries as well. So some students might be choosing music from a very different culture than others, and they'll discuss that during their creative process in real time in the workshop style that I'll create in this class and in their written form in the final 1 to 2 page reflection. And here are some of the guiding questions I used for this SAMR evaluation. And yeah, there you have it. This is my outline for Poetry and Sound unit. And if you'd like, again, I've linked this presentation, my Word document of the outline, which is here, as well as my own personal example audio file, which is about 3 minutes long. So if you want to listen to that, you feel free to check it out on my blog. Otherwise, thanks for listening and see you guys next week in class.